Hello there everybody, and welcome back to OpaFed Gaming and another episode of SnowRunner. I am the OpaFed. We just left the garage in Urska River Amur, and we're going to go out the back. We're going to slide down the hill to get down to ice level, because we need to go to the warehouse out back and pick up some metal rolls so we can bring them to the steel mill and we can use them to craft metal beams, because we need 2 more metal beams and we need 1 oversized cargo container. So we're going to do the metal, we're going to attempt to do the metal beams first. Now, I think, this is just my opinion of course, but I do believe that when you get to a new area, the best thing to do is do all the regular tasks first before you start into the contracts. The contracts are a lot harder, they take longer to do, and the tasks, what the tasks will do for you when you complete them is they open up the map, and you got to get to the watchtowers of course. They'll open up the map and you'll be able to see better where everything is, and you'll be able to check out and try and find little detour routes as you play. Anyhow, we're going to get down to the ice level here. When you get down here, try to stay fairly close to the right hand side by where all the boulders are, of course, because if you go too far out you will go through the ice. Now, I've been through here before. As you can see, there's some tracks there that broke through the ice. If you go even further you'll go even deeper, so I was lucky I didn't sink in. I managed to get out. So as we're traveling along here, you can see a bridge up ahead. Now that's the bridge we got across to get to the warehouse. So this is the easiest and quickest way to get to the warehouse. You drive to the end here, and at the end you make you turn to the right, and there's a little area where it's fairly decent and you can climb up the hill. So it looks a little bit different, a little bit weird, but this is the best way to go, and it goes pretty quick. Right here between these rocks you can feed your way up. And you can see the tracks from previous trips up this hill right here. Now the Kenworth, my favorite truck. It doesn't have too much trouble getting up here, but it does, you have to get it down into first gear before you can get up. And that's okay. Now this road up here is a little icy, but it's not bad. One of the drawbacks of the Kenworth is that he doesn't carry any chains, but one of the good parts again is that he's got a 3-slot cargo bed on the back. So, and his tires are huge, so most of the boulders are not a big problem, except for the fact that it will lift your truck up. So if you've got top heavy cargo on there, you could flip your truck by running over boulders. Just keep that in mind. So at the top here, we're going to take a little turn to the right, and then that's where the warehouse is. Now the entrance to the warehouse got some cement slabs there, and I always go a little bit to the side because there's holes in between the slabs, and when you go through that you will sustain damage, and I prefer not to, because you want to keep your truck running in its optimum, I suppose. So we're going to just cut a little bit on the right hand side here, and we can sneak in past that hole, and we can just kind of go over top of this hole here. Now, I do believe that the metal rolls are in the right hand side. So first what I always do is I always turn the truck around, because why spend that extra time loaded trying to turn it around? It's much easier to turn it around when you're empty. It drives quicker too. It does make a big difference, because the weight, you will find, as I'm sure most of you know that have been driving in SnowRunner for a while, the weight does make a difference in the vehicle. Now, the Kenworth is one of the most powerful trucks in the game, so I don't have too much trouble with weight here. The other one that I like that's got lots of power and lots of strength to pull stuff is the Zigzag. But we got the Kenworth today. We got 3 rolls of metal, and we're loaded up and we're ready to go. So let's head out, and we got to bring these to the steel mill. Like I said, we'll fabricate 2 metal beams, and I got a special way of putting the metal beams in the back of this truck so that you can put 2, because each metal beam holds 2 cargo slots. So 2 metal beams would be 4 cargo slots. Now, you can just imagine, you don't want to do this trip twice if you can only transport 1 metal beam. And personally, I really don't care too much for pulling trailers. So I don't want to do that. So I use the Kenworth. But you got to figure out a way to put 2 sets of metal beams in it. But I'll show you that later. In the meantime, coming down this road, as you saw, it's a little slippery and it'll pull your truck to one side, and that's okay. Most of the slippery roads or roads like that, if you go a little bit slower, you're okay, but they're a little hairy every once in a while. As you're coming along here, just stick a little bit to the right-hand side and get around these boulders here first. Now, the road's fairly flat, so you're going to be okay. Not too much of a problem. Right over here. Now, just like that. And if the road gets to be too slippery, just go a little bit over further into the snow. And you always got to try and keep an eye on how horizontal your truck is, because you don't want to be tilting too far to the left or right, because now you got weight on your deck in the back, and it could flip you over. So you don't want to take any of those chances. Now, normally I go on the left-hand side of the road here, but I thought I'd try this side. Now, as you're coming up to this here part of the road, the rest is all pretty hairy. It's icy. If you drive on the left-hand side, you will slide down to the right, so why not just start on the right-hand side, right? You can go a little bit slower, keep your tires in the snow, and you can go through some of these holes. It's not too much of a problem. There again, like I said, if you're going too fast, it will bounce you around and you will flip the truck to the right. That's a given. So going a little bit slower is advisable through here. But it's doable. We can do it. We can do it. The Kenworth is a very capable truck. I just love, but you do have to watch the fuel consumption. Now, you do have a 510 liter tank on it, and I believe you got I put 140 liters on the roof for spare fuel. But sometimes even that, all that is not enough, depending on how far you got to go, because the fuel stations are few and far in between in Amur on all the different regions. Now, in Northern Aegis installation, there is none, 0 fuel stations, so you have to drag fuel trailers over there. But you know, when I first started playing this game, I would get one truck and I would play it. And if I had a problem, or if my truck would flip, I would recover to the garage. And that's fine, you can do that, but then you got to start all over again. So there's got to be a better way. So sometimes you got to do a little bit of preliminary work, put fuel trailers out for yourself, or put another vehicle out to help you, you know, stuff like that. But we'll get into that later, as you'll see. Now here we're coming up to, I can't remember, I don't know what this facility is. We just go through it. I mean, you go in, go across, and come back out again. So, like I said, I'm not really sure what it's all about, but I'm sure it'll probably come into play later on when I'm doing the contracts, or doing other contracts. So, absolutely amazing, amazing game. I just love this game. Now, if you're into racing, or if you want to go a little faster, then don't play this game, because this game is at a slow pace. It's really slow. It's more puzzly than anything else. And then when you do start driving, like I said, if you're not careful, you'll flip it. But you learn quick. You learn real fast what you can and can't do, and sometimes you just have to test it out. What I like to do is I take my Tuz out and I run reconnaissance missions. I just go out and check it out to see if you can actually get up there, or see if the Kenworth can get up. And then I leave the Tuz there, because not only is he a great scout, he's also a fantastic rescue vehicle, as we're going to find out. I don't want to give too much away. Now, as we're going along here, try to miss the boulders, but there again, this truck will go over them without too much trouble. Now, coming along along here, you've got a lot of debris on the road, but the Kenworth doesn't mind. He doesn't care. He just goes over top of everything. Unless, of course, the boulders are too big, then he's not going to make it. As we got a little bit more up here, but over the crest here, we're going to be subjected to that little, I call it a ski hill, because it looks like moguls that they got on there, and it's just big holes everywhere, big mounds. And you really got to try and drive. Oh, looks like he's a little stuck there. Might have been a big, oh, it's got to be a rock that just stuck. That's the only thing. Every once in a while, if the rock is big enough, you'll get stuck on it, but then back up, move over. See, there's a couple of needles come out. Move over, and she usually goes. So not too much trouble. Not like getting stuck on it for hours. I've been stuck on it with a Tuz, and there is no way you can get off of there, off of a boulder, especially if there's nothing to winch onto. Anyhow, coming up here, we're at the top of the ski hill, and I usually put it into low gear, because when you keep it in just regular automatic, it tends to run away on you because of gravity. It really pulls on the truck going downhill here. So I put it into low gear. It goes a little slower, but at least we get to make it to the bottom with all three metal rolls still on the back of the truck. And it's a long jaunt. It's not a hop, skip, and a jump to get to where we gotta go. So we got a little ways to go. That's okay. Now we're gonna try and go over to the left a little bit. Ooh, I really don't care for this part of the journey, where it's really difficult to see how flat or even it is. But we're almost at the end. Almost at the end. We can drop our skis off and continue on. The Kenworth is a very capable truck. There is nothing that I have seen of the Kenworth or tried with the Kenworth that he couldn't accomplish. So this is the main reason why I use it for a lot of my jobs. Of course, if you got to pull something with a low saddle, you have to use the Tega King, because the Kenworth can only have a high saddle. Now, as you're coming over here, if you stick close to the rocks on the left-hand side, I know it looks really cool to slide down on the left there. It looks nice and smooth, but trust me, it's not. It's really tough. Over here, if you stay to the side, they will let you slide over top of these rocks without too much trouble. Going down is not too much trouble. Back up, however, is another question altogether, as we're going to find out together later on. Now, coming around here, we do have to be careful, make sure you don't drive off the ice, because then you will have to recover, because I don't know if the Tuz will be able to pull you out of the water. Coming along here, there's a couple places with some boulders that you got to be a little bit aware of. Not really a problem. Just looks a little scary with that water right beside you. Now, you don't want to come through here too fast, because if you go too fast, some of these shards of ice will kick you, will bounce you. And if you happen to bounce the wrong way in the water, you will bleed. With this boulder here, I just get by it with the front and then let the rear end just kind of roll over top of it. Now, when we get over here, there's some rocky area. If you're in the Tuz, you'd have to climb up to the left of this rocky area. And if you're in the Kenworth, you can come around and you can go through in between. Now, this rocky area here looks like there is not a chance that you could get up there, because it looks really bad. But watch as he climbs up. If you get it in the exact right spot, then he climbs up in the first go. Otherwise, sometimes you have to go back and forth 2 or 3 times. But that beats the time that it takes to go around on the left side of these rocks, because the snow is so deep. Over here, we can just keep right on going. Now, I like to try and keep it a little closer to the snow, because we gotta avoid that building, I guess you call it that. barn sitting over there. So I just back her up once and then we can get through it. As we're getting through this, we got one more little area here, a little suspect area. Right over at the end of this road, there is a water hole, and what they like to use in SnowRunner is a bunch of logs, and they throw them in there for traction, and that way, even though you see water, you know that there's logs underneath it, right? So you can still get through there fairly easily. It doesn't go through there as quick as it does, but the Kenworth does okay. But our troubles have not yet begun, because we still got a few really tough areas to go through. We're going to do a little bit of four-wheeling. We're going to do a little bit of everything yet. Now, sometimes it helps if you turn your wheels back and forth, and it'll help grind it forward a little bit, and then sometimes you'll get close enough where you can winch yourself out with whatever. But that little mud hole was not really a problem. Now, when you're climbing this hill, and this is the way to the tunnel, if you stay on the track, there's a mud hole at the top. So you wanna climb a little bit to the side, starting about right here, and just go just to the left of that telephone pole. And if you look to the left of the truck, you'll see the hole, and it doesn't look like much. Let me tell you, if you get stuck in there, you're going to be in there for a few minutes. I know, because I've done it. Everything that I say that you'll get stuck is only because I did it. That's it. Now, going up here, this is the way to the steel mill. First, we got to get to the little church, and then we're going to get to the steel mill. You want to try and get your truck centered over top of that crack in the rocks. And if you got it in the right place, it's not too much trouble. Now, if you go over too far, either your left-hand side or your right-hand side tires will get into that crack, and you could flip your truck. So you don't want to do that. So now, coming up here, we got a little bit of an area that's another pain. Well, there's lots of them in SnowRunner. There's a lot of mud holes and icy traps, but that's what the winch is for, right? So when you get going, as long as he's going, keep it moving. Don't stop. But as soon as he stops, then you're going to have to break him loose with the winch. So he's doing okay so far. We're not doing too bad. And every once in a while, we want to look on the mini map, and I like to put a tracker down up ahead where I got to turn left, because there's so many roads that cut off, and sometimes it's confusing. So if I want a particular road or a particular track, I'll just put the tracker down. Now you can tell it's only 50 meters away as we're getting closer. And once we get to that tracker, we're going to turn off this mud pit, because I used to go straight through that water until I found this shortcut. Now this shortcut's fantastic, because before I would go through the water and I'd come out the other end. Now I go this way, and the only problem area here is right in this little water pit. And they love their mud pits, their boulders, and tree stumps. Tree stumps is one of their favorites in this game. That's another thing you don't want to be stuck on. And sometimes you have to go back and forth a little bit just to make the turn, because the truck's so big. Now, it's not really a con, I think, because it's not a big deal. You know, unless it's really, really tight, and sometimes it's a pain. Now we're going to do a little bit of four-wheeling. I used to also take this shortcut and I'd go back onto the road. But this time I changed my mind and I kept in the snow and just four-wheeled through the back country right up to the little, I don't know if it's I think it's a little church. Well, we're going to see it in here. As you're coming through, you can see the tracks there. I've been through here before. Normally, if you driven somewhere and you stay on the map, the tracks will still be there. Now if you leave the map and you go somewhere else and come back, a lot of times the maps will reset and this will all be clean. But not this case, because I haven't left. Now as we're getting up here, we got the little, see, there's a little church right up there. I've delivered logs up there. That's why there's still a logging trailer sitting there. Now I could take that and bring it back to the garage for money, but then money is really not an issue in this game. Now from here, as it's getting dark, we're gonna have a little nap, I think, and change the time to daytime, because I have a hard time seeing when it's so dark. And the game is such a beautiful game, such great graphics on it, that I find it almost a waste if driving it at night, because you don't see enough. Anyhow, this is a cool little track, a little goat trail that you got to come down, and as you can see, that little yellow diamond with the spiky circle in the middle of it, that's the steel mill directing you. That's the sign directing you towards the steel mill. And we're now getting close. But this here little track is, it's a tough little track, especially down at the bottom, because every once in a while, you know, it angles a little bit. So just be a little careful, because it's tough. So as we're coming down here, I've put it in the lower gear so that the truck won't run away on me. Now we're going to try and miss as many of these boulders as possible, but the road is angled a little bit to the right. So be aware of that as you're going down here, because sometimes the OPFED doesn't always pay attention, as we will soon find out. Coming down here, and we start to slide, and then come on, no, oh no.